What is up, YouTube? It's your boy G11 back at it again with another episode of Homie Talk, where we have real discussion about real things happening when? Right now. So today I wanted to talk about something that's recently come up in my newsfeed and was also brought up to me by a good friend. Shout out to Riscano. And it's something that we previously covered in the past somewhat, right? And I'm talking about, transgender athletes competing in sports. Before we covered Leah Thomas, for those who don't know, Leah Thomas was formerly a male swimmer at Penn State, and he was a mediocre male. Like, he didn't really do great, but he wasn't the worst. So in about his third year of swimming at Penn State, he decided he was a woman. He felt like he was actually a woman, so he transferred into a she. Right, so now she competed in women's swimming and was breaking all kinds of records, dominating the competition, and took the number one spot, I believe, at the NCAA championships. And you can go on YouTube and just type it in and just see the crowd's reaction when they announced Leah Thomas as the winner. No one was really happy about it. It just was a really weird thing. You can even look at how Leah Thomas is in stature compared to her teammates and compared to the other females. It just didn't seem like it was a fair competition. Now, what's interesting is that the swimming's governing body, Fina, which is the International Swimming Federation, so they voted to bar transgender women from elite female competitions if they have experienced any part of male puberty. Now, this is unheard of because no other Olympic sport has made this type of decision just yet. But let's dig into the article and see why it was that they came to this decision. So the decision decided by 71% of the vote of 152 national federations at the World Championships in Budapest followed a report from a Fina scientific panel that found trans women retain a significant advantage over cisgender female swimmers, even after reducing their testosterone levels through medication. For you guys listening, if you didn't know, swimming allowed trans women, obviously it allowed trans women to compete in women's competition, with the exception that their testosterone levels had to be below a certain point, a certain number, and they had to be on hormone therapy for a certain period of time in order to compete. They didn't take into account puberty, which is like, okay, again, we'll look at the Leah Thomas example. Like, you put her next to her teammates and you have this 6 foot tall women against, I don't know, what's the average height of a woman in America? Maybe I want to say 5'7", 5'6". It might be a little generous, but you put her against them and it's not hard to see why she's dominating, right? So it continues like this. In a new 34-page policy document, Fina said that male-to-female transgender athletes could now compete in the women's category only provided they have not experienced any part of male puberty beyond 10 or stage 2, which marks the start of physical development, or before age 12, whichever is later. And it continues with, commenting on the policy, the Fina president Hussein Al-Musallam said, "We have to protect the rights of our athletes to compete, but we also have to protect the competitive fairness at our events, especially the women's category at Fina competitions. Fina has promised to create a working group to establish an open category for trans women in some events as part of its new policy." So I think this is a good step forward. Fina will always welcome every athlete, added Musalam. The creation of an open category would mean that everybody has the opportunity to compete at an elite level. This has not been done before, so Fina will need to lead the way. The vote makes swimming the second Olympic governing body after World Rugby in 2020 to introduce a ban on a scientific grounds. Most other sports have used testosterone limits as a basis for allowing trans women to compete in the women's category, a stance that has promoted inclusion but has been criticized on unfairness grounds. And this is why this is important. For exactly that reason, right? Sports is about competition. However, it should be a fair competition, right? In the even playing field where competitors test their strength, skill, stamina, dexterity, and IQ against each other. Now, when I say competitive fairness, I mean, men against men, women against women, and other against other, or transgender athletes against transgender athletes, or whatever. Insert gender against the same gender, right? Because the science supports it. A prime example is boxing, where you have different weight classes. Generally, if you match up opponents of equal skill, but one has a heavier weight class, the heavier one is going to win. Because, even though that other boxer may have equal skill, he can't make up for that difference in strength. The punches are going to hit a little bit harder. The difference in mass and structure. A few pounds does make a big difference in boxing. So that's why they're so strict on you have to be within a few pounds of that weight class in order to compete against your other opponent. And there's several different categories of that. And this is also the case with trans women competing in women's sports. Some examples we can look back on, right? I don't know if you are familiar with Fallon Fox, the MMA fighter. She fractured her opponent's skull, right? Fallon Fox is a transgender woman in women's MMA, and she fractured her opponent's skull. Connecticut had 2 trans women high school students dominate female track competitions. That's not surprising. Most recently, Leah Thomas, we talked about her. She was 3 years at Penn State as a man, and then destroyed women's competition, breaking records, actually, setting new records. My point is that biological women are the biggest losers in this. And I know we want to be politically correct. I know we want to be fair, and I want to have inclusion, but this is not actually fair. And I think creating another category for transgender athletes is one way forward. But we can't just include them against women just because they say, "Oh, we are women." I get it. I get it. They want to be counted as normal women. But the only way this is going to change, and again, all these changes are scientifically supported now. We're getting facts and data now. Is that women themselves do have to speak up on these issues, because when men do, we are called transphobic. We are called hateful, and no one wants to live with those titles or deal with those titles. And that's just not true. We're trying to actually protect women. We're trying to protect women in sports. We're trying to protect fair competition and just make it fair. But if people are okay with men, and I call them men because their body structure is that of a man. You've gone through puberty as a man. You have the muscle, skeleton, structure, all of that of a male. You're going to generally dominate in women's sports. Now, it's not always the case, but this is what we're seeing across the board, and the science supports it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. You can find me over on Twitter at The Real Homie Talk with G11. I'm also over on Facebook at Homie Talk with G11 and on Instagram at Homie Talk with G11. Guys, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for taking the time to listen to this video. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and we will see you on the next one. And y'all know what comes next. Peace.